It's been a while since I've done a Q&A and I'm back home in Norway, so I thought it would be fun to film one while I'm back here. So I thought I would structure it in 3 parts. The first part being more about running gears and training questions. The second part will be more about my goals and my race plans. And the third part will be more personal. And I will leave timestamps down below with all my questions, so feel free to skip to whatever section or whatever question you're curious about. What shoes do you run in for your easy days, for your threshold sessions, your long runs, and for races? When it comes to shoes, I'm honestly all over the place. My biggest thing with shoes is to go to your local running store and just try out a bunch of different brands and a bunch of different shoes, because we all have such different feet. So I think it's just really important to try them on and, get some recommendations from the people in the store and find what works for you. I love using a variety of brands, to be honest. I'll typically go for like a Hoka Mach 5. I especially like the Mach 4 and the Mach 5. I also love the Hoka Skyflow for long runs. They're a little bit bigger, and since your feet expand when you run further, I think they're perfect for the long run. For my threshold runs, I'll typically go for a carbon plated shoe. I love the Nike Alpha Flies. Those are also the shoes I typically will race in, but I also sometimes race in the Endorphin Pros from Saucony. I also love the New Balance 1080 for my easy run. Hoka Clifton, I also use them for typically a recovery run. What's one piece of running gear that you always bring when traveling? That one's easy, definitely my Garmin. Do you take any supplements for performance or recovery? Yes, I do. In the mornings, I'll take electrolytes first thing when I wake up. I usually go for True Wild's Hydrate, and I'll leave a link to that below. And then I'll do creatine in my coffee, and I also do omega-3. I use Thorne. So Thorne is third-party tested. It's NSF certified, which, especially for me who is aiming to perform in the Olympics, I'm definitely really big on making sure that the brands I partner with are, the highest quality, NSF certified, and make sure that I really do the due diligence and make sure that it's, the highest quality, nothing you don't want in those products. But other than that, I don't really take a multivitamin. I've gotten blood drawn and I don't really have any deficiencies. I just focus on eating a varied diet, whole foods, color on my plate, protein, carbs, fats. I have started taking tart cherry juice at night, which I personally can tell, especially on my harder days, on my threshold runs and my long runs, that it makes a difference for my recovery. And then also magnesium biglycinate by Thorne. So I'll typically take that also at night. And I'll leave a link to all the products that I use and a discount code in the description. And I've also made a video where I talk to my registered sports dietitian, and I'll link that video up here if you want to check it out. What's your go-to for muscle recovery? The more expensive option is definitely a sports massage. I'm big on cross fiber sports massage, really working not along the muscles, but like across the muscle fibers. But that's definitely expensive. For a cheaper option, I recommend just like a really good foam roller. I really like this brand called Rolga. I think that their foam rollers are just really hard, and especially for the back and spine. Rolga has these patented bumps so that, especially for your back, they just align perfectly, so you get like a really nice crack. I don't know, I always find it hard to find like a really good foam roller that's hard enough, because I'm not just foam rolling for it to feel good, I want it to actually do something for my muscles. So highly recommend checking out Rolga if you're in need of a new foam roller. What heart rate do you train in for easy days? This is a great question. I always say this, heart rate is individual and it definitely depends on your total training. So for someone like me who does a lot of volume and a lot of work at threshold, I definitely make sure that my easy days are like super easy. But because I've also been training for a longer period of time and my heart is, efficient, it's also easier for me to get a lower heart rate. So that's why typically my heart rate is anything from like 55 to 70% of my max heart rate on easy days. So that's between like 110 and 140 heart rate. And my max heart rate is 197, so that's definitely super low. And you know, most of my athletes won't have anything near this. And that's not bad. That's because they're training way fewer days per week. So we don't need to go that low. We don't need to take it that easy. And also because they're at a different stage in their running journey. So their heart rate won't get that low. But I've definitely learned that taking it that easy is super important to be able to do these long threshold runs and in general to do all my mileage. What's your biggest tip for running smarter, not harder? My biggest tip for running smarter, not harder is gonna be to know your personality. So as a coach, I think what I really focus on is changing my approach depending on the athlete. We're all different, although I do want to say marathon runners, we do typically have some characteristics in common, being very type A and, you know, having to get the work done. So for us, it's understanding when that quality is really good, how it helps us, you know, complete the marathon. It helps us complete all this hard work of training leading up to the marathon, but it's also understanding when it's holding you back. So for example, when you're extra recovered, say, you know, you've had like a really busy work week, you've had a lot of family stuff going on, maybe, you know, you've had a family member die, something like that, it's super important to change the training plan and have it be dynamic and know that that's going to be really hard for your personality because you're go, go, go. My biggest tip for training smarter, not harder, is to understand your personality and really work on when your personality is holding you back and how to change your decisions in those situations. And if you had to ditch your GPS watch, how would you train? I would definitely train on feeling. I would have pretty much the same structure as I have now as far as easy days, harder weeks, recovery weeks. What my smartwatch really helps me do is hold me back. Because I train on heart rate, I'm constantly reminded to slow down. Like my watch helps me not push. And that goes back to my previous point about personality. I'm someone who likes to push myself. I'm obsessed with improving and growth. So my smartwatch, before it used to help me push myself further, but now I've learned that actually I already have too much of that naturally, and what I have to do is hold myself back so that I have more long-term progress instead of these like short-term great workouts, but then long-term I'm just having way more setbacks because I'm overdoing my workouts. Part 2. Now I thought we would talk more about my 2025 goals and race plans. So what race am I training for right now? I always get this question on Instagram and I totally get it. I have my goal of running in the Olympics in 2028. And I know it sounds probably insane that I have this goal such far in advance, and a lot of people are like, okay, but what's the plan towards that? But what that means for me mentally is that I'm not in this rush. I think the first years of training for marathons, I had my whole year planned out with races, and I felt this constant pressure to perform. And that's why now I have my mind set on this long-term goal so that I'm not putting that pressure on my body. I'm instead working on where is my body at now and what will it benefit from. But that doesn't mean I don't have goals. I still do have goals for 2025. My biggest goal is the CIM marathon in December. And then I'll have probably a half marathon. I haven't quite decided yet, but I'll probably have a half marathon in early November or late October. And then I'll have probably a 5K race after the half marathon, depending on how fatigued I am after that half and kind of where I'm at. Like I said in my recent 5K time trial, I aim to have a race every month or so, not to PR, but just to kind of see where my performance is at, get race experience, remember what race effort feels like. and to see where my body is at. And also, races are a great way to improve your fitness as long as you're, adjusting your training around the races and making sure that it's not too much. So I get back from Norway to San Diego on August 15th, and that means I have about 4 months to prep for the CIM. But I probably won't do a race until, I want to say, early September, so that I'm, recovering well from the jet lag. What is your marathon goal time and how are you planning to hit it? So my marathon goal time is to race a sub 246 marathon because my PR is a 246, and since the marathon is so long, I don't see the need to race a marathon just to race it. I want to race it well, and obviously you can't control, race day, but I at least want to make sure that I'm not just like shoving in a marathon. I want it to be a solid build, and that's why I've planned it to be in December, so that I have a solid 4 months after coming back from Norway where I can just like dial in marathon prep. What's your ultimate goal for 2025 in running and in life? My ultimate goal for 2025, both in running and in life, is to really understand my body, like learn to understand when it needs rest, when it's okay to push. I think this is something that I've really struggled with over the years. I've been very fixed on the best training plan, the best workouts. I think a lot of you guys can probably relate to this. So what has really helped me the last couple of years is really understanding how to change the plan depending on what comes up. And I definitely learned this a lot through my coaching as well, because I see how, different training affects different bodies depending on where you're in your marathon build or in your 5K build. Training needs to be so dynamic depending on everything else that's happening and depending on the accumulative fatigue. So my biggest goal is just to keep learning how hard weeks should feel, how easy weeks should feel, how the different blocks should feel. And I really think that that's what's going to make me the best runner long term. I do have a goal, a time goal of hitting that sub 246, but I want that time goal to be a byproduct of me learning to adjust my training plan and adjust my training depending on everything I have coming up. I don't want it to be through me hitting these specific workouts, because I've seen in the past that can work, but it's not this long-term approach, and I want to keep building good training blocks on top of each other, and year to year I want to improve. I don't want these wins and then these big setbacks that I've had in the past. Are you nervous about anything this year? I'm definitely nervous about the CIM marathon. Like mentally, it's definitely hard to show up on race day and not see the PR or the race time goals that you want. And I think that's something that, just like I mentioned, is something that I'm working really hard on, is this mindset shift of realizing how my growth isn't just through my PRs. It's about, how I feel day to day. It's about how I've been able to run these hard weeks over and over again, how I haven't had these huge periods where I'm not able to run because I've been so consistently feeling good. I think I'm nervous that the race result is not going to reflect the growth that I've actually had, because I'm afraid that could discourage me from keep going, because ultimately I know that this way of doing things is the smart way to go about it, and I just want the results to show that, if that makes sense. If people want to follow your marathon journey, where should they start? If you're watching this video, you're probably not new to my channel, but if you are, I recommend you start with my story to just understand, who I am, how I started, all my experiences, and then I would go to my comeback series. That's where I talk about, everything from managing running intensity to running volume to threshold workouts, stress, strength training, nutrition. I talk about all the things, all the big changes that I made to start making sustainable progress. Then I also have a series called Marathons, where I talk about all things marathons. I have a follow-along workout series where I do strength training sessions. So my favorite abs and core workout that I'll typically do after run that also includes plyometrics. I've tried to make the strength sessions very tailored towards runners because obviously I'm assuming that you guys want to become a faster runner just like me. And for day-to-day training tips and motivation, then definitely follow me over on Instagram at runner Karoline Olsen. Part 3, my personal life and behind the scenes. What is it like being back in Norway after living in the US? That's a great question. Every time when I come back to Norway, I just realize how much I've grown, how like in a bubble I was growing up here. And I feel like I have way more appreciation for the Norwegian culture and for our work-life balance. I've also realized how American I am and how American my mom is. So if you didn't know, I'm half American. I'm dual citizen. My mom is from Boston and my dad is Norwegian. But my dad also studied in the US, and I definitely think that both my parents have a very American way of living as far as hard work and growth, and this whole you feel good through putting in the hard work. And not that Norwegians don't do that, but Norwegians are just way more about work-life balance. We have, a lot of vacation. We are very big on weekends. We're very big on family time in general, which I honestly love, but I do also love working hard and this feeling of achieving goals. And I personally know that for me, I feel my best when I make progress. So I just really want my life to be a combination of the two. I want to work really hard and I want to achieve my goals, but I also want that balance. So let me know in the comments what you grew up with, if your parents were all about, the grind and the hard work, if that's something you've struggled with. Taking breaks, for example, I definitely, in the past, much more than now, I still struggle with this, but I think that that's part of why I was drawn to the marathon. It was this big goal and this process of self-improvement. I love that about myself, but I also see how valuable it is to not always need to work towards a goal and enjoy rest more. Balance, I guess. What do you miss most about Norway when you're in San Diego? Wow, that's a good question. No, it's actually a very easy question. It's definitely my friends and family. The hardest part for me isn't, the weather or the Norwegian nature. I do love Norwegian nature and I do love cross-country skiing, the snow, but it's definitely really hard being that far away from my family and my best friends. I think, especially in Norway, it's very normal that you're very close to those you grew up with. This whole living this far away from my best friends is something that I really struggle with. I think I've had a lot of guilt, to be honest. I'd say I'm pretty good at calling my friends and family. I pretty much talk to my family every day, and I try to talk to my best friends on a weekly basis, but it's still not the same as, living in the same city and actually spending time with them. So that's definitely what I miss most about Norway. How do you balance training, coaching, content creation, and your business goals? For those of you who don't know, I don't have a regular 9-to-5 job. My stable income is my running coaching. So I have about 10 athletes right now who I talk to every week. And then I also have my training plans that I sell, and that's been my stability. And then I create, YouTube videos, Instagram content, and I also started a protein muffin company in San Diego 3 years ago now. So I moved from Oslo, Norway to San Diego for my MBA, and I used my MBA to launch a protein muffin company called Stay Satisfied. And Stay Satisfied is really all about feeling and performing your best. I think that what I really learned on my fitness journey and just in general life is that what I'm ultimately seeking in life is to feel my best. Reaching these goals, whether it be business goals or training goals, that makes me feel my best. And as long as I'm enjoying that process and as long as I'm having that balance, that is a life I want to live. And not only has it been important for me to find a lifestyle that allows me to feel my best, but I also want to create a lifestyle that helps other people feel their best. And I'm really hoping that, one, through my social media, but then ultimately through building my business, that I can hire people and inspire people to also feel and perform their best. Because my whole thing is, if everyone feels their best, I just think that the world is going to be a much better place to live in. So I want to do my part in making the world a better place. Yeah, back to how I balance it all. The biggest thing for me is definitely structure. Having a daily routine that makes me feel my best. I love experimenting in general, so I've tried starting the day with working and then running and then working and then, strength. I've tried changing my routine up and experimented with what works best for me. So I've found a daily routine that makes me feel my best. And that is waking up, eating breakfast, getting my movement in right away, so typically a run. But then starting off with my run and then getting my deep work in early in the morning, meaning my most important work task of the day that requires the most energy, I do that after my run because that's when I feel the most focused, the most alert, that's when I'm the most productive. And then I schedule my athlete meeting, creating reels, so actually making the reels, making the YouTube videos. I typically will do that and more meetings, meetings with my sponsors. I'll do that in the afternoon because that gives me energy. That's like the easiest tasks for me. And then I like lifting in the afternoons. That also works the best for me. And then I'm just really big on sleep. I think before I was very much like I wanted to work as long as possible, and once I got that second wind of energy at night, I wanted to use that to work. But now I'm like hard stop at 7 p.m. I try to have an earlier dinner and I prioritize winding down over getting work done because I value sleep so much. That's how I'm able to balance all of my different goals. Even when I got my MBA, I remember stopping my assignments even though they were not done to actually go to bed, which was like really hard for me. Definitely very different from what I did when I got my bachelor's degree, but I really found that having that energy and that focus just gave my work way more quality. So the hours, yes, I was working fewer hours, but the quality just produced a higher output even with the fewer hours, if that makes sense. Part 4, questions for Oskar. So for those of you who don't know, Oskar is my boyfriend. We've been dating for over 8 years. We met in college, so he definitely knows me. Oskar is also Norwegian. We literally grew up 10 minutes from each other, which is very convenient. But I thought that I would ask you the questions that people sent in on Instagram, and then you will answer them. He hasn't gotten any time to prepare or anything like that, so hopefully I won't have to cut out too much.
We'll see about that.
Yeah. What's it like dating a marathoner with Olympic goals?
Okay. I think automatically it just kind of adds a lot of structure actually to our lives, because you have this, very sort of, well, it's super rigid, but kind of rigid sort of training regimen, and then we kind of structure our lives around that. And it also kind of encourages me to work out quite a bit. So overall, I think it's pretty nice.
How would you describe Karoline?
I oftentimes say that you're a bit like an Energizer bunny. You have a lot of stamina and you just kind of go after things really well. You're really consistent with your input over time, which I think has a lot to do with everything you are able to achieve and everything I'm sure you will achieve moving forward, both running wise and otherwise. You're a big visionary, I would say. Almost naively so, I think. I'm probably a bit more kind of grounded in that sense, so hopefully we kind of... that's how I like to put it, although you call it pessimistic sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think it's good, because I need some of your visionary thinking, and you maybe need me to kind of keep you grounded sometimes, so works out well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, on that, you know, it's not that I don't see how maybe unrealistic my goals are. It's just I'd rather put it out there and then try my best. And then I just think it's important for me to not feel like a failure if I don't reach those high goals. And that's what I've been working really hard on, because I do definitely struggle with not feeling I'm making enough progress. And I know that that's not because I'm not making progress, it's because my goals are just so high.
Mm-hmm. But I guess that's something I could add too, that you maybe tend to be a bit sort of impatient, because, yeah, to your point, there's so much you want to do, and ideally you'd want it to happen, well, yesterday. But yeah, you're having a lot of progress.
So on that note, I just want to say that everything that I share on YouTube to you guys, a lot of it is based on my mistakes or even the things that I keep struggling with. So it's not me, you know, telling you guys how, you know, I am doing all these things right and you guys should do this. It's literally like I'm talking to myself. It's stuff that I'm struggling with that I know that a lot of other people who are similar to me also struggles with. What's one thing that Karoline's obsessed with lately?
Well, you run a lot, so that's the most obvious obsession.
Yeah.
But you've been doing that for a long time. I think, sort of related to that, you've become increasingly sort of aware of and interested in how to recover better, and especially I think for maybe the past half year or so, you've really gotten into the importance of massage.
Yeah. Sports massage.
And I guess that obsession sort of involves me, because being Karoline's boyfriend, I'm sort of an assistant in pretty much everything. One of my roles is to sort of be a personal sports massage therapist, giving a bit of a leg massage pretty much every night, which I think is super important. But
it's not you just, you know, doing it's not you just doing it because I tell you to do it. It's because you've also understood the importance of.
Yeah, I understand the importance, but I'm considering whether I should start charging you for
That's
for
gonna
all
be
the
very
hours
expensive.
I put in.
No, but seriously, a sports massage is really important. Like I briefly mentioned earlier, doing cross fiber, it doesn't even have to be, you know, a full hour. Just a little bit goes a long way. And if you don't have a very supportive boyfriend like me,
we can actually make a video on that.
Yeah.
Because I think we kind of dialed it down to like a 20-minute or so kind of rub down.
Yeah. And then watch that video with your significant other.
Your better half, me in this case.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know if we should make a video or I should make a video on sports massage. Okay. If Karoline weren't a runner, oh, this one's good. If Karoline weren't a runner, what do you think she'd be doing?
I mean, she would be diving headfirst into some other grand project, I'm sure. I mean, you grew up being a pretty dedicated sailor, and I'm sure you would be venturing into some other sports, I think.
You think sports?
Yeah, I think so.
You think I would do it that competitively?
I think so. You'd get into like CrossFit or something maybe, or maybe some other endurance sport.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then obviously pursuing some business idea as well. I think you'd be sort of, you'd be channeling your energy into different things, but still just as ambitiously and all in.
Yeah. That leads me to another question I think would be interesting. How have I changed from when we first started dating, which was 2017? So I was 19 years old and now I'm turning 28. How have I changed since then to now?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So, well, we were both in our first year of our undergrad and probably figuring things out even more than we're currently doing. So in that sense, you were more sort of, you didn't necessarily know exactly how to channel your energy and efforts, but you were still pouring just as much into, you know, back then it was still sort of us working out, it was you being part of all these study or student groups and stuff. So you were the same person to a large extent, in the sense that, you know,
I
you
was
were
doing
still
a lot.
ambitious and doing a lot.
Mm.
You were just channeling that energy into different things than you
Yeah.
are, and it was a bit more sort of all over the place. Now it's a bit more, yeah, channeled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Last question. When do you not listen to her running advice?
I think I'm a pretty good student. As Karoline just said, it's summer. We're back in Norway now. I just came back from a small vacation with my family to south of France, and there's this like running route that I have to do every year, which is like about 12K, so like 8 miles or so.
Mm.
And you always tell me that maybe I shouldn't do it because I'm not really running that much at the time and kind of injury prone. But I have to. I don't care. I have to do that lap. Anyways, I have to do that run. So yeah.
I don't tell you to not do it.
You want me to walk and stuff?
I want you to build up towards it.
Yeah, but
It's like he hasn't run for how long, and then he needs to do that run, and then he goes too hard. Although,
I was fine this year,
yeah. So you have listened to that part of my advice.
apparently.
Yeah.
Other than
Awesome.
that, I'm a good student, I think.
Is there anything that you disagree with my advice?
No.
No?
You're a good teacher.
Yeah. How would you describe me as a coach?
Hands-on, empathetic. I think over the past 5-6 years you've learned a lot through your own kind of running struggles and your own journey, which I think honestly has made you a way better coach, because you can relate a lot more to what other people are going through.
Thank you. That's all. So thank you all so much for watching if you made it to the end. If there are any other questions you want me to answer, let me know in the comments below. I've started this YouTube channel for you guys. I want to know what you guys would find it helpful for me to make videos about. And then as far as my coaching, right now I am at full coaching capacity, but I have a wait list. So if you're interested in having me as your coach, then still fill out my form, and then let's put you on the wait list so that, if one of my athletes leaves, something like that, then I might have a spot open for you. And then I also started this Facebook community group with my brand Stay Satisfied. So if you want to join that group and meet like-minded people, that's also where I interact the most. What I love is having these weekly check-ins where we talk about some wins from the week and what we want to focus on in the next week. So I would love if you join that group. And then check out my discount links below. I'll leave a link to, all my supplements, my foam roller, all that kind of stuff. And I always say this, but all of these recommendations, all these links, it's me reaching out to the brands that I love. I would never promote something that I personally don't love and would personally not spend my money on. I want you guys to know that. And if you want to learn how to create a vision board, then check out this video right here where I talk about my 2025 goals and how to create my vision board. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.